everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the final Kenny and Renny post-game show of 2024 as we get set to jump into 2025. And I'm looking here, I see Reg Dunlop says KNR not showing up with 4 question marks for emphasis. Listen, Reg, when have we let you down before? We're not going to start doing it now right at the end of the year. We're going to leave the year strong, enter the next year strong. That's the only way to do it. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to talk about this game, which I thought, well, before I get into that, I know in the year 2024, I may have been a little bit hard on the excuse makers. You know who you are. You know who you are. There's a lot of you out there. You show up all the time. Hey, I can find one here. Hey, I bet if I take a little perusal of what all you guys are talking about here, up there's one right there. D says, considering the back-to-back, the altitude, the travel. I thought, hey, it's a 3-for-1 deal from D here tonight, talking about, the altitude's always a great one. Like I said, maybe did they check the barometric pressure at Ball Arena? That's the one that you need to check for here. I know that I've been hard on the excuse makers all year long. And so this show is for you. This is the one you've been waiting for. Remember when you'd watch Tom and Jerry, Jerry was always kicking Tom's butt all the time. And every once in a while, they'd have one of those shows where they were nice to each other and they worked together. And there was such catharsis. This is going to be one of those shows for the excuse makers here to end the year, to close it out, because I'm going to build in the excuse, but it's contingent on one thing. Okay. But I will say this: back-to-back travel, all the things that D had talked about there. I take a look at this, and me saying this is contingent on one thing. And that one thing is, in order to lean into this, you have to take this from the idea that the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche are 2 teams that are very, very, very close in stature, right? You can't take this the Winnipeg Jets are way better than the Colorado Avalanche, and which a lot of people will be thinking out there. You cannot do that. Yeah, see there, D&D comes in, Avs faced the backup and needed lucky third goal, gutsy effort by the Jets, all this kind of stuff here. I don't buy into this. I'm not going to go into that excuse with the lucky third goal and all this kind of stuff. There's a reason that they end up winning this game, and it's pretty obvious. It's pretty evident. But what I will say is, if you go from the idea that the Colorado Avalanche, who've won 9 of their last 11 games now, the Colorado Avalanche, who for a long time looked like a good team that were plagued carrying a giant boulder behind them, which was their goaltending, have kind of really turned things around since they went out and they got the 2 Woods in net. Mackenzie Blackwood, who at one point looked like he was on his way to being the successor for Carey Price as Canada's next goaltender, and it got lost for a lot of years. The Avalanche go looking for potential. They look like they may have found it there. But the Colorado Avalanche look like what the stats told us that they were for a long time, a really good team with really bad goaltending. And now that they have good goaltending, they're a really good team, winning 9 of their last 2 games. Yes, they've got a long way to go if they were ever going to catch the Jets in the standings. But I operate this assumption, and the excuse that I will build in for all you excuse makers out there, I hold these teams to be very on par with each other. And to be honest with you, from the 2 games that they've played head-to-head so far this year, I would say the Winnipeg Jets, regardless of where they are in the standings, have a little bit to do to catch up to where the Colorado Avalanche are. I'll say it this way: the last game that the Jets played against the Colorado Avalanche, they won that 1-0. They were better in this game tonight. Okay. So the Winnipeg Jets, in my mind, I take a look at this and I think this is a good game. This is a good game for the Winnipeg Jets because they walk into this situation here and they improve on what they did in their last game. And they do so after having played back-to-back, after having had to travel, after having to play a really, really good opponent. And sure, let's throw it in there because I'm giving a armistice for all the excuse makers out there. Bring them all in. Tonight's the night to get it out of your system. So backup goaltender, let's throw that in there as well. But the Winnipeg Jets did better in this game than they did in the last one, even though they won the last game. They played a better style of game here tonight. The one thing I will say though, and I'll give into the excuse. So maybe the shot clock isn't as tilted in this game if the Winnipeg Jets come into this fresh. Maybe, the time of possession is not quite as tilted if you're the Winnipeg Jets because of this back-to-back. But the whole thing about the backup goaltender and all those things, like Comrie played really good here tonight, I thought. I take a look at this game, and to me, this is just a shot volume game. Now, the Winnipeg Jets do a really good job of two things. A, when they are on and completely on top of their game, they're a steamroller. They cut you off in your own end. You saw that game that they played against the Ottawa Senators, and they slowly, inexorably got to that as the game went on. That, to me, which is why I said that was my favorite game that I've seen from the Winnipeg Jets this year, that one against the Ottawa Senators. They just got better, smarter in that game, wore their opponent down. It's like a boxer going in and throwing in a whole bunch of body shots and winning the fight at the end of it because you just wear down your fighter. That's what I saw there. Maybe the Jets didn't have the wherewithal to do that tonight, but when the Jets are on top of their game, we know what they look like. They roll on teams. They're heavy on them. They get the puck. They hold on to the puck a lot. The other thing that the Jets are really good at is when they don't have that game, they're good at surviving it when they don't. They're good when they are not the best team on the ice that night, or they don't have a lot of the possession. They don't have the edge in shots. They don't have the edge in high danger shots. They're very good at protecting home plate, the guts of the ice, as Scott Arniel says it, and they can survive. And I thought they did that for the most part here tonight. But what I would say is if the Winnipeg Jets tonight were the difference that we saw on the ice between a team that I thought the Colorado Avalanche quite simply won this game on volume. They held on to the puck more. They controlled it more. They churned more on the Winnipeg Jets end. They got more on the front, like more shots on net. I'll say this: there's a conversation to be had about Mark Scheifele, who's having a phenomenal year right now, and I believe still leads the NHL in shot percentage, which means he's extremely selective with the shots he takes. And Nathan MacKinnon, who just outright leads the league in scoring, and how often he just gets the puck on the net to try and see if he can get some chaos, the kind of stuff that Ken and I talked about getting the puck to the front of the net where you can get people directed and going to the front of the net because that's where the puck is going. There's a conversation to be having there. But I'll give the excuse tonight that the Winnipeg Jets probably didn't have, as much in the tank as the Colorado Avalanche did. And maybe that's the difference in the amount of shots, the amount of times they held on to the puck, the time with the puck, all those different kind of things. But if it's not, and you have to look into the idea that may not be the answer based on the last game we saw the Winnipeg Jets play against this team where they just did not have the puck very much, but their goaltender stole a game and they got one goal. This, to me, is the danger of relying too much on that style. The style of saying, yeah, we're not going to shoot as much. We're not going to have the puck as much, but we're going to try and score opportunistic goals. And then we're just going to try and protect home plate. On a night like tonight, the difference for me in between these two teams is just that Colorado was busier. Colorado threw more at the net. Colorado gave themselves more chances than the Winnipeg Jets did. And you want to talk about lucky bounces? Give me a break. We just talked the last show where the goal that the Winnipeg Jets went the go-ahead on was a fluke off of Nikolai Ehlers' stick onto Gabe Vilardi. You can't have it both ways. You can't celebrate the Winnipeg Jets winning their last game in this fashion and then turn around and be like, oh, it's just luck. That's the only reason they didn't win this game here tonight. You have to look at it both ways. Your luck is going to increase when you give yourself more chances and more opportunities. To me, this is just a night in which the Colorado Avalanche gave themselves more opportunities to win this game. And if you're the Jets, it's okay to be a team that survives tests like that with good defense. I don't think it's a strategy that gets you past the very best in the league. And I think that's what we saw on this night against one of the teams that right now is clearly one of the best teams in the NHL. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take on the whole thing. Here comes Kenny, folks. Ken, my friend, I hope you are closing out this year strong. In fact, I know that you are. Both of us could be carrying it out a little bit stronger if we were dressed to the nines. Maybe we should have celebrated in our Vittorio Rossi gear. Probably would have been a good way to close it out. Probably too late for us to suggest you go close out the year like this, but you could start the year looking about as fashionable as you possibly can. You do that by heading on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will start your 2025 off looking like $1 million. Ken, take it away. What'd you see in that game tonight?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we saw what we've seen a lot, Sean, but, you touched on a lot of things. And, the odd part to me, this is, again, another one of the examples where I think high dangers can be a little bit deceiving at times. Natural stat trick at 5-on-5 has the Jets with 8 high danger chances to only 6 for the Avalanche. So for me, that's not the way the eye test kind of rolled out for me, yeah. But I would say that the Jets had some dangerous chances, but I don't know. I mean, it felt like Eric Comrie was asked to make more saves than Mackenzie Blackwood is how I would view that. But anyways, overall, I thought the Jets were, full value for their ability to, stay in this game. And I know you hate that term, but it was a prototypical, the legs weren't quite there. So they did their best to kind of hang in the game. But I mean, obviously the team with more speed in this game was clearly obvious, especially when you're looking at the top end guys. But having said that, Sean, I mean, in a game where the Jets lost 5-2, they did a really good job against Nathan MacKinnon for the most part. Mm-hmm. And they limited MacKinnon. And yes, Makar had a few bursts, and of course he sets up the Devon Taves goal. But overall, they kept those guys in check. So I would say there were some things, this isn't a rose-colored glasses scenario by any stretch. I mean, I think the Jets played, they were, dogged in their effort. But, I do think that, I mean, like you said, the excuse meter is tilted heavily for a team that had been off since Friday. But at the same time, the Jets found a way to hang around. Good goaltending again by Eric Comrie. I mean, obviously the Taves goal is a strange one because of the fan shot and it just kind of squirts through the pads. But for me, again, Eric Comrie did his job to keep his team in the game, and Jets just don't find a way to provide enough offense for him. I think that's 10 goals for in the last 6 starts. I mean, people saying that Eric Comrie, 6 in a row. Well, I mean, 10 goals for, that leaves very little margin for error if you're the goaltender. So, I mean, for all the people that were here saying Eric Comrie's not an NHL goalie at the start of the year in the chat room, I mean, I don't share that view. And, again, I think that these things sort of even themselves out as it goes along. If Comrie keeps playing the way that he does, I think the Jets will find a way to get him a win. And, it's important that, I mean, I love the way they're reacting. Morgan Barron, Neil Pionk to, Ryan Bolding from NHL.com in Denver. Both were very disappointed that they weren't able to pull that one out of the fire in the third period. I mean, the Jets' full value for getting that game to 2-2, battling back from 1-0, battling back from 2-1, but they weren't able to push. They didn't. The Avalanche made the play when it counted. I mean, that's the similarity to the playoffs. For me, this wasn't like the playoff game, Sean. It wasn't the Avalanche skating their Jets into the ground. Were there some similarities? Yes, there's a redirected shot in front of the net by Arturi Lehkonen. That was reminiscent of the playoffs where the Jets had trouble clearing the front of the net. But this wasn't, outright domination the way that we saw at times in that playoff series. But they did show that they've got some weapons to. When the Avalanche crank it up, they're a tough team to handle. That's 5 in a row for them. And Sean, I believe that puts them in a very good spot in the Central Division. They're 9 points behind the Jets, and I believe I'll have to double check, but they're breathing down the necks of the Minnesota Wild quite heavily here.
Yes,
and I love the way the Wild have played to this point, but. You and I both were in the building when they put a banner up. So to me, I think that based on, again, long season left, sure. But right now the Avalanche look like a team that's, going to be pushing neck and neck with the Wild for sure for second. And I think that, they're going to be a team that will be heard from before the year is over when it comes to chasing the division, even though the Jets do have a nice, they still have a 9-point cushion, but I just don't think this is a team that's going to go away. That's sort of how I'm going to put that into perspective here. So overall, again, some things the Jets did pretty well in this game, but there were some other things where they needed to, find another level or find another gear, and they didn't find that today. But again, this is not a panic situation for me. It's a team that ended a really strong month. Just didn't quite find the extra gear when it mattered in the third period. But again, given some of the circumstances, that's not a surprise. But they hung in there with one of the best teams in the league. And when you're at the top of the standings, I mean, this isn't moral victory territory, but I would say that the Jets could feel good about quite a few things out of this game. And also knowing that they have another level, that they're playing at. And again, you said it already, Sean, but for all the people in the chat room saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe the schedule." The Jets got the Wild twice on the back end of back-to-backs. So it evens out. I mean, it evens out over the course of a season. Sure. Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. So Jets will go home and for an 8-game homestand. There are some tough opponents in this homestand, no doubt, including the Avalanche, who are going to come to town next Saturday, and the Predators, who will come back, which is strange, Sean. 5-game road trip that starts and ends in Winnipeg. You don't see that very often in the standings. So for me, again, pretty solid, better than average effort, but the Avalanche had an excellent effort. So you're not going to beat a excellent effort with a better than average effort under the circumstances. And again, lots of effort by the Jets, just weren't able to find that extra gear that the Avalanche did find.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell Andrew Pugh. I'm clearly not in my home office with some friends getting ready to celebrate the new year. We'll close this out before we go there, but some people are already setting off the fireworks in the backyard here. But Andrew Pugh, as I'm here, is clearly back in my backyard, my hot tub, because he says, no excuse. This is the same as the Avs in the playoffs. Volume and goaltending over slow, grind it out. I love this because to me, again, this is like, you can say whatever you want about the high danger chances. And Ken, I'm honestly not surprised that the high danger chance meter tilted in the Jets' favor on this night, because what I did see was that was the point I was trying to make. You're talking about the highest scoring player in the league who was far less selective of how he tried to get his offense tonight than the Winnipeg Jets were. And I definitely think that this is one of those times that I don't know in a 7-game series how that pans out. The Winnipeg Jets trying to hold on to the puck until they get the perfect look and put it in the back of the net, or the Colorado Avalanche going out with super high-end skilled players who aren't afraid just to get it to the net and get something to happen. I mean, look, one of the goals the Jets scored tonight is Logan Stanley simply driving to the corner and finding a way to get the puck to the front of the net, and boom, it's in the back of the net. Like, it gets there finally, and it's going to be a high danger scoring chance, but the chances of him getting the puck to him in that situation aren't high. He knocks it out of the air and just has it sitting in the crease, and so he grabs it there. This is just the mindset of get the puck to the net. The Jets get one of their goals tonight from that mindset. But the Colorado Avalanche were the team that went to that mindset far more often. And to be honest, did that in the last game where they were the better team against the Winnipeg Jets, even though they lost the game. And it's the exact same mindset they carried into the playoffs last year. I think there's a lesson in here for the Winnipeg Jets. If you're Scott Arniel and you're looking, there's a lesson to say this is not a team you sit back against. This is a team, hey, we all talked about the Winnipeg Jets top line trying to match other teams' top lines. I think that against a team like this, you kind of need to match the intensity of just getting stuff to the net and going there if you want to beat them, because over the course of a 7-game series, I far more like the team who's going to light up the scoring clock and have talent against the team that has talent and opportunistic scoring, but is just too selective with what it shoots. Anyways, Andrew Pugh, get out of my hot tub in my backyard there. You have to be in there with a red hot take like that because, of course, in my backyard is an Arctic Spas hot tub, and we all know there's no such thing as a cold take in an Arctic Spas hot tub, especially mine that has the Spa Boy package. So if you need to melt away those ice cold takes or just have a couple red hot takes like the one Andrew Pugh had there, you know what to do. Head on down to Arctic Spas, ask for my boy Dustin, and he can take care of you and all those pesky cold takes out there. I did want to jump on something here quickly. I wanted to explain this last show. This is one of these times I can like flex my degree that I got from the University of Manitoba in kinesiology, Ken. I remember we had a prof there who did a phenomenal job of teaching us why these situations. So on the second goal, someone was saying it's a bad goal that just cannot go, right? I was going to break this out last game because of the Nikolai Ehlers goal and how hard it is for the goaltender for the Nashville Predators to stop that shot when he is fully expecting the pass to go across to Mark Scheifele in that case, but it ends up going to a different player. He used, Ken, this is back in 2022, and we'll talk about great teaching. Our professor used the game that had happened the day before. It was a Monday, and on the Sunday, I believe it was, Team Canada won the Salt Lake City Gold. And one of the goals that was scored, you will remember, Ken, I actually forget, I think it was Paul Correa who scored it, but the pass across that Mario Lemieux is going to shoot and fakes the shot and lets the puck go through him untouched. And it goes across. Is it Paul Correa who scores that goal? You know the play I'm talking about. You just weren't paying attention. Pass goes to Mario Lemieux. Lemieux. Oh,
sorry. Yes. Yeah. Between his feet. Yeah.
Yes.
Back door.
Anyways, okay, back door, and it's in. Now, what he explained to us as we're taking kinesiology at that time is the way that your brain works. What you're trying to do as an athlete when you fake a guy out is you are trying to make his brain think something, but not just think it, but to think and act on it, because there is a slight time there. It's like, a quarter of a second or a half a second that can, if I deke right and I make your brain think right, that I'm going right to the point that you start to act on it, there's a bottleneck in the thinking process in your brain. And what happens is once that thought gets in that bottleneck, your body is paralyzed to act in a different direction until your body carries out that thought and that directive. And that's what happens when you see someone absolutely deke someone out. If a player thinks that you are going to do this and starts to act on it, that act needs to be followed through on. And so if I start to follow through on that act and you suddenly deke the other way, there is nothing physiologically I can do to act on what you've done. So if we take that to the last game, Nikolai Ehlers is trying to sweep that pass across to Mark Scheifele. The goaltender thinks that that's what's going to happen, and his brain is acting on that, but the puck slides off the stick, goes to Gabe Vilardi, and he is helpless to react to the puck getting to Gabe Vilardi. This is the same situation. Taves does something, and you can see Comrie raises his body based on what Taves was trying to do. It never happened, and that opens up that little bit of by him raising up that little bit of the opening in the pad, and he's able to slide the puck through. And that's why that happens. It's not bad goaltending. It is physiological. If Connor Hellebuyck was in the net and his brain had reacted to the same thing, he would have been in the exact same situation. So people who are looking at that and saying, man, oh man, this is Comrie just absolutely blowing this. This is just science. This is just physiology, what happens to him in that situation. It's my way of getting into this and saying, because I know someone tried to point out here earlier on and they'd said, kind of saying that does the defensive structure just disappear when he's in the net? I do think for a while there that when the Jets were through a stretch of hockey where they were not playing well, they seem to play worse in net with Comrie in net. But this, to me, tonight is just the Jets playing a really good team that took advantage. And to your point, I think Comrie did everything he could to keep him in this game. One of these games, Ken, we are going to have a podcast where Comrie's in net and we say, you know what? Comrie didn't do himself the best service he could have done today, but that's not it. You talked about all the losses that he's stacked up in a row. This, to me, is unfortunate. This is not reflective of how he's played. In a whole bunch of those losses, Comrie has been one of the best players on the ice. I continue to think with the amount of shots that were mounted tonight by that team, a couple really great cross-crease saves that he made in this game. Again, I'll say it. Comrie was one of the best players in this game. Boy, oh boy, if you're talking about a guy whose record does not match what he's doing in net right now, it is Comrie.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny. I mean, funny is not the right word, but I was talking with Adam Lowry yesterday in the morning and we were talking goaltending and he said, like, he literally went up to Comrie after the game in Anaheim and said, hey, we got to get you some run support. You can't score the goals for us too. You're doing everything to keep them in the game. And I mean, this was another classic example of that. So, I mean, again, I thought that Comrie was very poised and showed a lot of composure. And Sean, we've talked about that. This is another, we talked about Hellebuyck for a long time yesterday, and Comrie is really, kind of flourishing, being back with Wade Vilardi here in the Jets organization, and he's really doing a solid job and showing why the Jets had faith in him when they signed him to that 2-year deal during the offseason. So again, like you said, this is something that probably eventually you would think it's going to turn. Now that's 9 starts for Comrie. His 10th, I think, will come next weekend, Sean. There's a back-to-back with the Kings and the Avalanche. And now I know that the Jets have gone pretty heavily, and Scott O'Neill had said the majority of the time you'll want to go with your starter in the front end of the back-to-backs. The Jets now 0-4 in those scenarios in the back end. So I wonder, just given the style of play that the Kings play, Sean, maybe it's a little bit lower volume team. Maybe they go Comrie Friday and Hellebuyck Saturday. I mean, that would give Hellebuyck 4 in a row rather than 5. So I'll be curious to see when that next start comes. I think it'll be definitely next weekend. I'm just not sure where that will be. I mean, it'll be Friday or Saturday. Do you have a thought on where do you think they're going to go? Do you think
I'm going to ask you
stick
this.
with it? Do they stick with what they've been doing?
How much do you think Connor Hellebuyck enjoy? Because if you're talking Saturday, you're talking hockey night in Canada again, or are you talking the following weekend?
No, I'm talking about next weekend. Not this weekend. No. Hellebuyck will start the next 4 for sure. Is how I view the schedule. That would put him in the net against Anaheim, Detroit, and definitely against Nashville. But then I wonder if they consider going Comrie on Friday against LA and then saving Hellebuyck for Saturday on the back end for the hockey night game against the Avalanche, the rematch. I just wonder.
Yeah, I feel like the answer to that is yes. I feel like at this stage right now, one of the things that the Winnipeg Jets do a really good job of is prioritizing how they prepare for and, how they play against teams in the Central Division. I think that this is one of these things where I think the Jets are going to want to have, and you know what? I say this realizing that last year they had a great record of success against the Avalanche in the regular season, and it was absolutely meaningless come the playoffs. But I do think that there has to be a little bit of the Jets basically kind of plant their flag and say, we know how to play against you. And part of that is Connor Hellebuyck. And clearly, again, I can say whatever I want about thinking there's 2 games now they've played against the Colorado Avalanche, in which the Colorado Avalanche have been the best team. But the Jets have won a game, and they won that game because Connor Hellebuyck was superhuman in that game. And, if I'm Connor Hellebuyck, I want to get into a game against them again because I want to plant that seed. You know what you did to me in the playoffs last year? that's over. If you think that's happening again, because let's be honest with ourselves here. To your point about how the Colorado Avalanche are playing right now, I don't necessarily think that they're a danger to catch the Winnipeg Jets. But last words, but I think that they're probably looking like they're on a cruise control course for second in the division, which means the Winnipeg Jets are probably going to have to face them in the second round. Or there's a very good chance that they're going to have to. So I think if you're Connor Hellebuyck, you want to get as much in the tank for you can to kind of erase the stink of what happened last year and maybe continue getting into the heads of those players by trying to do to them again what you did to them earlier on in the year. So I would think that Connor Hellebuyck is gung-ho on making sure that 2 Saturdays from now he's in the net for the Jets against the Colorado Avalanche, no doubt.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm leaning too. But again, we're not filling out the lineup card. We're just looking into the crystal ball, which is occasionally cloudy, right? Like today. I mean, we were both thinking that Coghlan deserved another shot. He got it, but I thought that it may come on a pairing with Ville Heinola, but Heinola healthy scratched again today, and Colin Miller is on that third pairing. But Sean, no surprise. Coghlan again, all over the place in the game. I thought he showed really good legs. He made a couple really smart passes, blocking shots, joining the rush. Activation was there when necessary. Got a couple great shots, good looks on. A couple hits here and there. I thought he played really well again, to be honest, and I want to see more. I want to see him again, and again Thursday against the Ducks, honestly.
Yeah, I got to say this. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Help me out here, chat room, if you'd like. But Ken's, catchy, the Gus bus. Ken was one of the first people on the Gus bus. Think of something that rhymes with Coghlan that you can put together, because Ken is leading the charge on Coghlan. And hey, I'll say this. Like Ken, I want to give you credit for this, because you know what? Like you are borderline in scouting territory right now, Ken, because you go and you take a look at the guys who are, hey, it's one thing to go out and say, I'm going to take this guy and we're going to pick up this guy who we know is a good player and we think he's going to fit here. And there's a value to that. We all saw what happened with the Winnipeg Jets when they've got, brought in Kevin Hayes versus when they brought in Sean Monahan, right? One worked really well, one didn't work as well, right? So it's not totally easy. Hey, same thing as Toffoli last year. I think if rumblings from the Winnipeg Jets and their management group were, they felt like they got it wrong with Tyler Toffoli. And the results sure suggest that they did. But picking those guys who have 1 foot in the AHL, 1 foot in the NHL, and finding a way to get those guys, like, give credit first off, before I give credit to you, Ken, to Kevin Cheveldayoff and what he's done. And Scott Arniel has talked about it, about the depth that this organization has built up. But on top of that, Ken, like you talked early about Fleury, you talked early about Coghlan, you were talking about these guys long before everybody else was. And I think where a lot of us, and I'll count myself in that group, saw guys that they were just hoping that if they had to use them could maybe bring some value. You saw guys that you thought were really good fits that deserved more of an opportunity and could bring a lot more than we thought they would. You, Ken, gave all of us the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, and you know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 1-204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place to talk to you about all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Hey, I know it's just the new year and you're looking outside. There's a lot of snow. It may not be an issue to you right now. Now's the time you want to get on that list. If you want Pristine coming and doing any of that kind of work when it's roofing season or exterior season, although the way they work, I'm not sure those seasons shut down anymore. So make sure you give them a call. Ken, I don't think we talked about him enough last show, but sure. Gabe Vilardi at this stage is really, really having a coming out party. We talked so much about Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, deservedly so. And I would suggest if you talk to Gabe Vilardi, I can tell you this, Ken, I had a conversation with him one time where I think he sometimes feels like, pinch me, that I got onto this team and got onto the line with these two players, because I know that Gabe Vilardi is wowed by those players. It's one of those situations where it's like, I can't believe I get to go to work with these guys and play hockey alongside these guys. But that said, if he were able to kind of turn and be a little more look inside at what is happening right now. I sure hope he can take a look and say, geez, I'm doing a lot of stuff out here that not a lot of players in the league are doing. In my mind, easily one of the best sets of hands, top 3 in the league, hands in tight on Gabe Vilardi.
Yeah, just exceptional job of finding that puck, getting it flat, and then absolute roof daddy shot there on that goal. And Scott O'Neill talked about it last night, right? I mean, I'm not sure if you asked or who asked, but yeah, here was Scott O'Neill's quote on Gabe Vilardi last night. We've talked a lot about KC and Scheif, and I keep reminding everybody there's a third guy on that line. And whether that's 5-on-5 or on the power play, he's a big body guy that has some great hands on him. He doesn't stray too far away from that net. He doesn't need much time, and it doesn't take much. They just get it close to his blade, and he's usually going to get a shot off. And more often than not, lately, that shot has been finding the back of the net, up to 18 goals now. Well on his way to 35 plus that we had in the crystal ball that wasn't quite as cloudy here. We talked about it. Gabe needed to stay healthy, and the fact that he's been able to do so through all 39 games here is a testament to the work that he's put in to keep himself ready and in the lineup. And he's really been flourishing. And I wrote it today in the warm up, our game day newsletter for the Free Press, Sean. I mean, this is not just a passenger on this high speed train. This guy is he's doing his job, and he deserves to be on that line. And he is helping those two guys find a level that they haven't found on a unit since peak Blake Wheeler days. And that says a lot, right? I mean, that's an impressive development.
Okay, so to that point, and I want to bring that up. Mark Scheifele, I had him on that Hockey Night in Canada, that last game that they played against the Ottawa Senators. I had him on the bench, and here's the deal: Mark, like you talked about the peak Blake Wheeler days, and I said this. I think I said it on this show. I didn't think that line. I didn't think Kyle Connor. I didn't think Mark Scheifele were ever going to be as good, not just as individual players, but on a line in total as they were when peak Blake Wheeler was going. And peak Blake Wheeler was the guy who was the best player on that line, the guy who drove that line. Mark Scheifele got really close, but he was always the straw that stirred the drink. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Gabe Vilardi, all 3 of those guys are on pace for career years. Okay, the best years of their career. And I don't think it's just numbers. I think it's how they're playing. We talked about, the commitment to the back checking and everything that we're seeing from them and their 5-on-5 play, probably the best that they've been. If Mark Scheifele isn't playing the best hockey of his career, the only time it was better was in the first couple of rounds of the 2018 playoffs.
Yep.
That's a pretty hard level to reach that he reached there, but they're going off. And when I asked him what's allowed those players to, they were, and this is how I framed the question. You were great from the moment you were put together last year, but you've somehow found another level that's way above that. How did you get to that level? And Mark Scheifele basically gave a lot of it over to Gabe Vilardi, right? He's played with Kyle Connor now for how long have they been together now, Ken? 7, 8 years on the line?
8 years, yeah.
So it's not like, do they get better? I think they've got better. I think they're even better at finding each other. I think they play off each other better. So I'm not saying that there's not improvement between these players. And to be honest, Mark Scheifele said as much. But the fast forward element of this line becoming a line that we now talk about as being one of the best lines, if not the best in the NHL, you cannot ignore the fact that Gabe Vilardi goes to the front of the net. If you can get him the puck there, it's almost always in the back of the net. And when you have a guy like that, even if he does not score as much as Mark Scheifele does or doesn't score as much as Kyle Connor does, when you've got that threat at the front of the net, you have to pay attention to it, and that opens up space for the likes of Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. Now, Blake Wheeler used to open up space in a much different way. He used to open up space by doing, quite often, it was a little bit of snake charmer out there, and he did that. And to be honest, before that, when I thought Blake Wheeler was at his best, he just did it with his size and speed, and it took 2 guys to stop him, and that's how you created the space. Then I thought it started turning into snake charmer as the years went on. This is just a different way that Gabe Vilardi opens up space for those two players. Both those two players are now more mature and know how to better handle the ice that's opened up for them. But you always hear this, Neil Pionk is the king of it. Whenever you ask him about playing good player, he just says, time and space, take it away. That's what you've got to do. The one thing that Gabe Vilardi does to make that line great, outside of him having some of the best hands in tight in the NHL, is that it is impossible to not give more time and space to two players who are lethal with it, because you have to pay attention to that guy when he's going to the front of the net.
Yeah, no doubt. And sorry, John Chan has a good one here. The production is impressive, but what's it going to cost the Jets to extend the pending restricted free agent if it's a 35 goal, 65, 70 point season? Is it Ehlers money? Is it Ehlers territory? 6 million? Is it north of that? What? It'll be interesting, right? I mean, it's got to be 6 or north of 6, right? I mean,
I think it's going to be fascinating because of the respect factor that he has for Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck, and seeing that, like, put it this way. The Boston Bruins used to talk about, having this internal cap, right?
Yep.
And they would take less to be a team that competes, right? I think the way that you get to be a team like that, and there's not a lot of them. The Colorado Avalanche, they're not one of them. They've got a whole bunch of guys who want to get paid as they're some of the best players in the league, and they are that. But it's going to cause problems for them for years to come. I think is Rantanen up this year, Ken?
Rantanen at the end.
Yeah, I mean, what's it going to pay to keep him? And you've got Makar who's set a standard. You've got McKinnon who's set a standard on that team. So that's where that's going. The standard that's been set with the best goalie in the world, and Mark Scheifele, who's doing phenomenal right now, is $8.5 million. And like I said, Gabe Vilardi, I know for a fact, Ken, looks at Mark Scheifele and is awed by the guy that he gets to have playing on his line. And I think there's an element of that that's like, am I really going to go? Like, I need to price myself based on what I think I am compared to this player. Now, the important part about this, Ken, is you got to get guys who want to stick around with the Winnipeg Jets in order to fall into an internal cap situation. And here's the deal. Gabe Vilardi knows that he spent time in the league as a third-line player. Gabe Vilardi, I think, very much knows and is very aware that had he not come to the Winnipeg Jets, he may just be another guy in the NHL right now that people don't think of. And he gets to come here and play a role that has people like us talking about him being some of the best hands in the NHL. He's this player who's looking like he's going to be on pace to challenge 35 to 40 goals this year. He gets to play on a line on the top power play in the NHL, on one of the top lines in the NHL with two really great players. Gabe Vilardi knows what it looks like to be on a team where things don't go that well. And because of it, things don't go well for you personally. And he gets to be on a team right now where things go great, and they go great for you personally because of what the organization's seen for you. So I don't know if I want to give you a number, whether it's over 6. I think it's probably over 6, Ken. I think it probably has to be over 6. But I don't think Gabe Vilardi is going to hold Kevin Cheveldayoff's feet to the fire, because I think that he's probably just a little bit too thankful for what he has become under the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, totally fair. And I mean, the other part, similar to the Avalanche, Sean, the other kind of fly in the ointment for the Jets, Kyle Connor's up at the end of next year. So you'll be looking at an extension there that's going to be a big ticket as well. So that's where the salary cap gymnastics will start to come into play.
What do you think the chances are that Connor signs matching deals with Helly and Scheif?
It wouldn't surprise me. I'd put it that way. I mean, I would think these would be worth more on the open market. But as you mentioned, kind of like before, with Wheeler kind of being the top end of that internal cap, I would think that it's going to be similar to that number.
Yeah.
Almost similar to, Taves Kane in Chicago, right? When they signed the matching deals.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say this. Let's go to the payoff. And I'm going to say this. We don't talk enough about Kevin Cheveldayoff. And we can say when he picked up this guy, I saw that Prime ran it the other day. They went back to the old, these are the guys they got for Pierre-Luc Dubois. But I'm going to tell you this, Ken, the way that they grabbed Gabe Vilardi, brought him in, put him on that top unit right away, that's no fluke to me. To me, that is either a conversation that happened with Kevin Cheveldayoff and his coaching staff, or Kevin Cheveldayoff and his scouts saying, we think that this guy really fits and will elevate the game of the players on the top line. It's too specific for me, Ken, how they've used Gabe Vilardi from the moment he walked in the door. It's too specific for me not to think that Kevin Cheveldayoff looked onto the LA Kings roster and saw something in Gabe Vilardi that the LA Kings themselves did not see. And give credit to a guy who is able to go and look up and down a roster and find the hidden value that seems to be hidden from the people who are right in front of their face. So does it pay off to have Kevin Cheveldayoff go fine tooth comb through a lineup and find the value? No doubt it does. And if you are looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt-free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Quickly, Ken, or no, quickly, take your time. Give Sweet Lou a shout out.
Sure. For folks who have realty needs they'd like to have met during the holiday season and as we approach 2025, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of this community, including our podcast, for which we are thankful.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move to the second line. A lot of people talking about that. Wild Bill, who for some reason is taking a shot at me here right now. I remember tried to take a shot at me a couple shows ago when Cole Perfetti scored a goal, and he was taking a victory lap because I'd suggested something about Chibrikov being used as a guy who could maybe, light a little bit of a fire under him. Every once in a while, I'll have Cole Perfetti. I don't change that opinion there. I think Cole Perfetti goes to sleep far too often for a guy you need producing on your second line. I know he hit a post a couple of games ago. I think when you get into the situation where you're looking at a stretch of games and you're holding up the fact that a guy hit a post as like the positives in there, that's you're probably not getting enough out of a line that you need to produce here. But on this night, it's the fourth line, maybe the least expected guy on the team to be kicking in is Rasmus Kupari. But what's your take on the second line and how much of the rope they have grabbed and are pulling on right now, Ken?
Yeah, well, I mean, it just hasn't been smooth for them. I mean, lately, even though Ehlers had the 3-point game against the Senators on Saturday, some of that was power play activity. But I mean, I give Vladislav Nemestikov a ton of credit. I mean, he left the rink in Toronto with an ice bag on his hand. Yesterday, he laid out and blocked a shot on his arm or his hand. He's not taking draws at all, even though he's the centerman on that line. So he's obviously playing through something, but in terms of generation, it hasn't been the best stretch for that line. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that. Perfetti today, no shots on goal, no shot attempts in just under 14 minutes. So, I mean, this is an offensive player. And again, I'm not pointing the finger squarely at Perfetti on that line, but no shots for Nemesnikov either, 3-shot attempts. Ehlers had 3 shots and 6 attempts. And, Sean, in the third period, obviously, Scott Arniel didn't like what he was seeing because he moved the line. I mean, he moved Alex Iafallo onto that line, and he moved he moved Ehlers to the Lowry line with Niederreiter, which I quite liked, Sean. I mean, this is sort of taking a page out of the Rod Brind'Amour kind of piece, right? I mean, where you have Stahl with skilled wingers. You have a, really dependable center that has some offensive upside. You've got a perennial 20-goal guy in Niederreiter, and then you got Ehlers trying to be the straw that stirs the drink on that line. So I thought that those guys had a few good shifts together. Do I think that that's where they're going to stay? I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave that a little bit more runway here. But let's just put it this way. I mean, the Jets need more from Perfetti. They need more. I mean, Nemestikov had a couple crazy chances in the 2 previous games, Sean. I mean, the setup for Kyle Connor shorthanded to Nemestikov that went off the post. I mean, that's got to be scored on, right? That's a beautiful play. I mean, just tough break for Nemestikov. He actually hit it pretty good. He just rattled it off the post. That happens. He had a glorious chance against, the game before that, I think. So, again, but at the same time, Nemestikov already has 9 goals. He's going to comfortably be in double digits again this year. But I mean, right now, that line needs to do a little bit more. And, Interestingly enough, even before we knew that Appleton was heading to the shelf with an injury, when I asked Nino Niederreiter about the line the other day at the morning skate, Sean, Nino thought the line needed to do more offensively, and Adam Lowry said the exact same thing. So um, they're in an interesting spot, right? I mean, the fourth line's now got it going a little bit. I'm not trying to change the subject by any stretch, but they need to get all four of those lines producing at various times. They're not going to all score every game, but I think that's something that for the Jets to continue to be at or near the top of the NHL standings, they're going to need a little bit more cohesion from that second line. It reminds me of the start of the year where their spacing was a bit off. They weren't quite in sync.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to kind of find a little bit more of that. And, oddly enough, Scott O'Neill talked about the meeting he had with those guys. They talked about how they sort of watched some video together and were like, okay, well, in an effort to try to do, it's almost like a less is more right now for those guys, Sean. For me, maybe a little bit better spacing would allow them to have that extra split second and have that opportunity to bear down a little bit more and find a little bit more offense that hasn't been easy to come by during this last stretch. But again, I haven't found a lack of effort from the line. It just has been a little bit less cohesive than it was when they were going at their best.
Okay, we want to let people get to their New Year's celebration, so we're going to keep this tight. But I am going to bring this in because, Ken, I know you want to talk about. I know you, buddy. I know you so well. And Scott Westman says cheap dollar contract. Bring in Jonathan Toews. He's won everything. No one in that room has won anything. Teach the room something. We're not going to talk about this right now, but we're going to make a New Year's resolution to get to this because, folks, Kenny has been trying to get to this for so long, and the host of the show, Renny, is the guy who's been standing in the way. It's my job to pitch him in there, tee him up, and I haven't given him the chance. So Scott Westman is going to take over as the host of the show in the new year, at least with this question. And we will, I promise, get to this question. But now we have to take care of some of their favorite business to take care of. And let's start off with the Johnston Group Got You Covered play of the game.
Yeah, I mean, there were several, but, again, this is not because I'm the conductor of the train here, but Dylan Coghlan laying out and blocking a shot when it was still a 1-goal game in the third period. That's my got you covered play of the game. I thought he was all over the ice, and that was just another great example of a guy trying to do each and everything that he can out there to earn another turn. And that was another classic example. I don't remember who the shot was off of, but it was an impressive shot block, and that's what I chose.
You know what I'm going to go with? This is one that's a little bit off kilter, but I found a way to make it fit the theme of the We've Got You Covered play of the game. Penalty kill for the Winnipeg Jets, and Adam Lowry goes and gets
good one.
Starts heading down the ice, and so while it doesn't seem like this has got you covered, it's a penalty kill, right? So if you're killing time on the penalty kill, you've got the team covered in that way. But he gets the puck, heads in. It's a 1-on-2, and he just approaches the perfect pacing that seems to scare off the defenseman to give him time, and he holds off and protects the puck, and it almost looks like he's got this look like he's like, I dare you to come take it from me. And the two defensemen get mesmerized to it to the point that they kind of zero right in on Adam Lowry, who is nowhere in a dangerous spot, but at the same time killing time on a penalty where rather than rushing him to get the puck back, the team that's on the power play is kind of sitting back, not knowing what to do. And all of a sudden, the guy who gets lost better than almost anyone in the league, Kyle Connor, comes flying in there, and it's a turn spin pass by Lowry right onto the stick, and it ends up being a great scoring chance for Kyle Connor in that situation. I just thought that was really, really smart. Players are able to get the opposition to react in the way they want them to. The brilliant players. I think Josh Morrissey's reached this level. I think Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes are the absolute kings of it. I actually put Cale Makar ahead of Hughes because Cale Makar gets it done in the playoffs. I haven't seen Hughes do it yet, but Cale Makar is a genius at moving the opposition into the spaces he wants them to go, like chess pieces on a board, so that he can open up an attack. The best players in the league are able to do this. Adam Lowry did that on that play. He controlled the two defensemen in a way where he sucked them in, got them in the wrong spot, and got a scoring chance to one of the most dangerous scorers on the ice and in the game period. Great play by Lowry. That's my Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more, and a very happy new year to the K&R OGs, the Johnston Group. I thought that was a great way to end the year.
Well done.
Another couple great Johnston Group got you covered plays of the game, which brings us, Ken, to the keg save of the game. What do you got?
There's a ton of saves in that game at both ends of the ice. I think the one that I starred earlier in the game was Comrie on Val Nichushkin when he tried to go to the power move. For me, that's the save of the game. Honorable mention to the one on the backside on Logan O'Connor, but I like the one on Nichushkin. I mean, there were tons in the third period too, but that one to me sort of was indicative of the way that Comrie played overall in the game.
Yeah, I got to say, and I think it was, and sorry if I'm getting this wrong, I thought it was another cross ice pass, and Lehman took a one-timer.
That was another good one too. Yeah,
in the third save. To me, that was the keg save of the game. Again, I mean, it's funny because there's going to be people out there who think the evidence is piling up against us over and over and over, and the fact that Comrie has not won a game for as long as he hasn't, the way things are going. We can only be honest and tell you what we see. And I see a guy who shouldn't be losing games. And it's just the way it's going. Again, I'll stand by it. I thought Comrie was one of the best Winnipeg Jets on the ice here tonight. Boy, oh boy, he needs to leave the luck of 2024 behind him and hope something new starts in 2025. Regardless, that's mine and Ken's hashtag the keg saves of the game. Doesn't matter what we think, matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And our winner from our last show of the hashtag the keg save of the game, that would be Greg Johnson. Greg, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our final of 2024 TCB Lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, lots of great options on both sides of the ice, Sean. I love the no-look pass that Makar makes to Devon Taves on his goal. I really like the play that Stanley makes to get it to Vilardi in front. Great hands. I love the Lehkonen goal because of his ability to get knocked to the ice and still redirect the point shot from Josh Manson. I love the Middlestat goal because of what it represents. Another great job by Manson. Keeps his head up, finds a guy on the backside, a guy who hasn't scored in 17 games, started the game on the 4th line, but finds a way to score the game winner. But to me, we talk about repeatable goals all the time. Jets with a great stretch pass. Neil Pionk finds Morgan Barron. Morgan Barron finds a streaking Rasmus Kapari. And Sean, a guy creates a lot of chances, but that's actually some pure finish by Kapari on the backside after another great pass by Morgan Barron. So to me, and the underrated part of that play, Sean, Logan Stanley's read, his gap control in the neutral zone forces that play to happen, allows Neil Pionk to get that lane for the stretch pass. And that's why I'm going with the Kapari goal, even though I listed almost all of them in the game. I'm going with the Kapari goal as my lamplighter.
I think the underrated part of that is the way that you slipped pure finish into your lamplighter.
Accidental.
Well done. Way to shut down 2024 with a bang, Ken. That was amazing. I'm all about repeatable goals. I'm all about guys just not being stopped, pushing it to the front of the net. Logan Stanley does that, just gets that there, gets it into an area where a guy with really great hands can do that. But you know what? If it's anyone else, if it's David Gustafson, if it's Cole Perfetti, if it is Nino Niederreiter, that puck being there, they may not have the hands to roof it the way that he does, but maybe they jam it through the pads. Maybe they just keep jamming away at it until it goes off a skate and goes in. You get the puck to a dangerous area with guys there. The very least it does is cause chaos. Great play by Logan Stanley. I want to see more of that from Logan Stanley. That's my hashtag the keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what I think, though. Matters what you think.
Lamplighter, baby.
Lamplighter of the game. Doesn't matter what I think or what Ken thinks. Share with us your hashtag hashtag TCB Lamplighter of the game. You are automatically entered to win a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you cannot wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you yours, you know what to do. Head on down to their tap room at 11290 Kenniston Avenue Boulevard. I can't remember. I always forget that one. Kenniston. You know where Kenniston is, folks. Anyways, head on down there. Lots of great beers, lots of great food, great atmosphere. It's a great place to be at this time of year, as it is any time of year. There's really not a bad time of year to go there. But hey,
Kenniston Boulevard.
Start your 2025 off right. And just like this person is starting their 2025 off right by winning at the end of 2024, 22 minutes or so to go before the ball drops. Bordeaux, you are the winner of the TCB Lamplighter. So you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, Bordeaux. Send me an email, and I will send you a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. It is the nectar of the gods. Kenny, any last words before 2024 expires?
Yeah, it was a great year for us, Sean, personally and professionally. Really enjoyed it. Thanks to our listeners and viewers. We've had a fun year, tons of shows, having a lot of laughs, had some great guests, and really looking forward to continued growth in the new year. Thankful for a lot of things, including our partnership, my friend, and go enjoy the ball drop with your family, and we'll get after it on Thursday again. Thanks to everybody. Love what we're doing here and love how you've helped us grow this great community here, and looking forward to a great new year ahead.
Yeah, I'll say this, Ken. One of the best parts of my job is working with you, being able to enjoy the time with you, laughing with you, arguing with you, giving each other, cold stares at each other after tense moments in the show here. And I love the tense standoff with the people in the chat room. I love the interactions. I get so many texts now from so many people who watch the show, texts, messages, so on and so forth. And I think I do a pretty darn good job, people would admit, of getting back to it. I love the interaction. I love that you want to reach out and talk hockey with us. It's the whole purpose of this show. So we're so glad that you continue to come on and talk hockey with us, because we don't want it just us talking hockey at you. We want it to be a conversation. Speaking of a conversation, before I do go, just to indulge, we're talking about, New Year's resolutions. T. Will says this is an interesting one. T. Will, our Winnipeg Sports Talk Florida correspondent. He's down there with his family. His brother-in-law tells me he's a handful, folks. You don't want a vacation with T. Will, with Terwilliger. I'm going to tell you that much. But he said, not sure if Buffalo's ready to sell. That fan base is going to string someone up if they have to go through another rebuild. This is something that I think is weird for this year, Ken, because it seems like there's a lot of teams that are in a bad spot that I don't think necessarily want to sell. They want to trade components, say this doesn't work for us. You take it, you give us something back. And that's not where the Jets are. So I think it's a little bit of a strange year in that I don't see the obvious sellers and the obvious players on those obvious sellers that are the obvious needs that the Winnipeg Jets need. So we'll have to have a conversation about that in the new year. Ken, you had something to say before I shut this down?
Yeah, just a quick one. Happy 62nd birthday, Howie Gilmore, fan of the show. And
excellent.
Just wanted to get that out there. Yep.
Right on. Okay, that's it for us. We hope that we have served you well in the year 2024, folks. If you do think so, good, because we're going to keep doing exactly what we're doing to try and make sure that we continue to serve you in 2025. Kenny and Renny right here is our favorite place to be. We hope it's one of your favorite places to be as well. And if it is, and if you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, we implore you to appreciate the contributions made by our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Arctic Spas, the Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. We appreciate you. We love you. All the best for everybody in 2025. And hey, I told you the crappy joke was coming. See everybody next year. Bye-bye.